The alarm clock screamed at 5:47 a.m., 13 minutes before it was supposed to. Marcus Bennett's eyes snapped open in the darkness of his small bedroom, his hand already reaching to silence it before the sound could wake Zara. Too late. He heard the soft patter of bare feet on hardwood, and then his daughter's face appeared in his doorway, her brown eyes still heavy with sleep, her natural hair wild around her head like a halo. "Daddy?" Her voice was small, uncertain. "Is it school day?" Marcus sat up, the sheets falling away from his bare chest. At 34, he carried the kind of lean muscle that came from necessity rather than vanity, from lifting his daughter onto his shoulders during their weekend walks, from the physical demands of his cover job as a night security guard at Piedmont Hospital. His skin was deep brown, catching the amber glow from the streetlight outside, and his close-cropped hair showed the first hints of gray at his temples. "Not yet, baby girl," he said softly, opening his arms. Zara didn't hesitate, climbing onto the bed and burrowing into his chest. She smelled like the lavender lotion they used after her bath, mixed with the particular sweetness of a sleeping child. "It's still early. You've got another hour." "Why you up, then?" "Daddy's got to go to work soon, early shift." That was the lie he'd been telling for 3 years. The truth was that Marcus Bennett was a special agent with the FBI's Atlanta field office, currently deep undercover investigating a human trafficking ring that stretched from Atlanta to Miami. The night security guard job was his cover, giving him legitimate reasons to be in hospitals, hotels, and office buildings at odd hours, giving him access to cameras, keycards, and the invisible architecture of places where desperate people disappeared. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. But Zara couldn't know that. No one could. Not his neighbors in their modest Bankhead apartment complex, not the other parents at Zara's elementary school, not even his own sister who lived 2 hours away in Savannah and worried constantly about why her brilliant brother was wasting his life as a security guard. The only person who had known the truth was his wife, Nicole. And Nicole had been dead for 18 months. Marcus closed his eyes against the familiar stab of grief. It never got easier, not really. The aneurysm had taken her in her sleep, sudden and cruel and absolutely without warning. One moment she'd been kissing Zara goodnight, laughing at something their daughter had said about her teacher. The next morning, Marcus had woken to find her cold beside him, already gone, her face peaceful like she was still dreaming. Zara had been 5 years old enough to understand that Mommy wasn't coming back, not old enough to understand why. For 6 months, his daughter had stopped speaking almost entirely. She'd communicated in nods and head shakes, in drawings that broke his heart, in the way she'd climb into his lap and just sit there, silent, like she was making sure he was still real, still breathing, still alive. A child psychologist had helped, slowly, gently. And Marcus had been there for every session, every breakthrough, every setback. He'd put his undercover work on hold, taking desk assignments, being just a regular agent who went home at 5 p.m. to his grieving daughter. But 6 months ago, the case had heated up again. The trafficking ring had expanded, grown bolder, and Marcus's handler had asked him to go back under. The Bureau needed him. The victims, women and children disappearing from bus stations and homeless shelters, needed him. So he'd said yes. Because that's what Marcus did. He protected people, even when it meant lying to the one person he loved most in the world. Now, he held Zara close in the pre-dawn darkness, memorizing the weight of her, the trust in how she melted against him. In 3 hours, he'd drop her at school. In 4 hours, he'd be sleeping while she was in class. In reality, he'd be meeting his handler, reviewing surveillance footage, planning the next phase of an operation that was finally closing in on the men at the top. "Daddy," Zara's voice was muffled against his chest. "Yeah, baby?" Miss Cooper says we're doing family trees at school. We gotta draw our families. Marcus's throat tightened. That sounds nice. But? She pulled back to look at him, her 7-year-old face so serious it hurt. Do I draw Mommy, even though she's not here? God. Sometimes his daughter's questions landed like physical blows. Yes, he said firmly, cupping her face in his hands. You always draw Mommy. She's always part of our family, Zara. Always. Death doesn't change that. Love doesn't stop just because someone's gone. Zara nodded slowly. Then, with the resilience of children that never failed to amaze him, she brightened. Can I draw you in your security uniform? With the flashlight? Marcus smiled despite everything. Absolutely. Make me look tough. You are tough, Daddy. You're the toughest. If only she knew. If only she could understand that her father wasn't just some night watchman checking doors and watching monitors, that he was trained in tactical operations, proficient in 5 languages, had been in more life-threatening situations than he could count. That the reason they lived in this cramped apartment instead of somewhere nicer wasn't because he couldn't afford better, but because living modestly was part of his cover. That every decision he made, every risk he took, every lie he told, was to make the world safer for children exactly like her. But she couldn't know, so he kissed her forehead and sent her back to bed, promising pancakes for breakfast. By 7:30 a.m. they were in their morning routine. Zara sat at their small kitchen table, her legs swinging as she demolished a stack of chocolate chip pancakes. Marcus stood at the stove, spatula in hand, still in his worn pajama pants and a faded Howard University t-shirt. Their apartment was small but filled with life. Zara's artwork covered the refrigerator, crayon drawings of flowers and rainbows and the 3 of them. Always the 3 of them, even though Nicole was gone. Family photos lined the walls, moments frozen in time. Nicole pregnant and glowing, Zara's first birthday, a trip to Stone Mountain before everything changed. The furniture was second-hand but clean. The dishes were mismatched but sufficient. They had what they needed, nothing more. Marcus's FBI salary could have afforded them much more, but that would raise questions. Night security guards didn't live in upscale neighborhoods or drive new cars. So Marcus drove a 15-year-old Honda Civic with 180,000 miles and a dent in the passenger door. He shopped at Aldi and Target. He counted his money carefully at checkout counters, making sure neighbors saw him doing the mental math that people on tight budgets always did. It was exhausting, maintaining a cover 24 hours a day, being 2 people at once, but it was necessary. "Daddy, you're burning the pancake," Zara announced, pointing with her fork. Marcus swore under his breath, flipping the pancake to reveal a too dark bottom. He scraped it onto his plate. "Guess I'm eating that one." "You always do that," Zara said wisely. "You give me the good ones and keep the burned ones." "That's my job, baby. Dads eat the burned pancakes." After breakfast, they moved into their hair routine. This was Marcus's favorite part of the morning, even though it had taken him months to get good at it. Nicole had been a master at natural hair care. Twists, braids, puffs, she could do anything. Marcus had been hopeless. But after she died, he'd learned. Watched YouTube videos at 2 a.m. while Zara slept. Practiced on mannequin heads. Asked for help from the older black women in their building who remembered him fumbling with rubber bands and breaking combs. Now he could manage. Not perfectly, never as beautifully as Nicole had, but well enough that his daughter went to school with her hair neat and protected. This morning, he parted Zara's thick hair into sections, his fingers gentle as he applied leave-in conditioner and oil. She sat patiently, used to this, occasionally wincing when he hit a tangle. "Sorry," he murmured, working through it carefully. "It's okay. Mommy used to pull too sometimes." The casual mention of Nicole still hurt, but Marcus had learned not to flinch. Zara needed to remember her mother, needed to keep her alive in conversation and memory. "Your mommy had the best hair," Marcus said, beginning to section Zara's hair into 2 ponytails. "Big and beautiful, just like yours." "Do you miss her?" "Every single day, every single moment. In the morning when he woke up alone. At night when he came home to an empty bed. When Zara did something amazing and his first instinct was still to turn and tell Nicole before he remembered. "Yeah, baby, I miss her a lot." "Me too." Zara was quiet for a moment. "But I'm glad I have you." Marcus's hand stilled. He bent down and wrapped his arms around his daughter from behind, holding her close. "I'm glad I have you too. You're my whole world, Zara. You know that, right?" She nodded against him. "I know, Daddy." By 8:15, they were out the door. Marcus wore his security uniform, navy blue pants, a light blue shirt with his fake company's logo, black work boots that were actually tactical boots in disguise. His badge read, M. Bennett Security Services. Nothing about it suggested FBI. Zara wore her favorite purple dress with white sneakers, her hair in the 2 neat puffs Marcus had managed. She clutched her backpack with both hands, bouncing slightly as they walked to the car. The November morning was crisp, Atlanta's version of autumn. Leaves scattered across the parking lot in shades of gold and red. Other residents were heading to work, to school, to wherever their days took them. Marcus exchanged nods with Mr. Patterson from 3B, waved to Mrs. Chen loading her grandchildren into her minivan. Normal. Everything had to look normal. They drove the familiar route to Zara's elementary school, listening to her favorite playlist, a mix of kids' songs and the clean versions of popular hits. Zara sang along, slightly off-key, completely unself-conscious. Marcus found himself smiling despite the weight he carried. This was why he did everything. Why he lied and pretended and put himself in danger. For these moments. For her happiness. For the chance to give her a childhood where she felt safe and loved and normal, even though nothing about their life was actually normal at all. At the school drop-off line, he pulled up to the curb. Zara unbuckled herself. She was getting so independent now, growing up too fast, and reached for her backpack. "Have a good day, baby girl," Marcus said, leaning over for a kiss. She kissed his cheek, then hesitated. "Daddy, when you come pick me up, can we get ice cream?" "It's November, Zara. Ice cream doesn't have a season." Marcus laughed. "Fair point. Yeah, we can get ice cream." "Yes." She pumped her small fist in victory, then climbed out of the car. "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too." He watched her run up the sidewalk, her backpack bouncing until she disappeared through the school doors. Then he sat there for another moment, hands on the steering wheel, gathering himself. His phone buzzed. A text from his handler, Special Agent Linda Torres. "Need you at the field office. 10 a.m. Development in the case." Marcus's jaw tightened. A development could mean anything. A break in the investigation. A new lead. Or something going wrong. He pulled out of the school parking lot, his mind already shifting into agent mode. The careful, loving father receding behind the trained operative, who had spent 3 years tracking monsters. What Marcus couldn't know as he drove through Atlanta's morning traffic, was that 5 miles away, another life was about to collide with his in a way that would change everything. Judge Simone Matthews sat in her chambers at the Fulton County Courthouse, staring at the case file in front of her without really seeing it. The words blurred together, legal language she normally processed with ease now just meaningless shapes on paper. She was exhausted, bone deep, soul tired, exhausted in a way that sleep couldn't fix. At 36, Simone was one of the youngest judges in Fulton County and one of the few black women on the bench. She'd earned her position through brilliance and relentless work. Law degree from Emory, years as a prosecutor, a reputation for being tough but fair. She looked the part, too. Today, she wore a charcoal gray suit beneath her black robe, her natural hair styled in an elegant twist, diamond studs in her ears. Professional, polished, in control. Except she wasn't in control. Not really, not anymore. Her husband, Detective James Matthews, had been killed 18 months ago. Shot during a routine traffic stop that had gone wrong. He'd been pulling over a speeding vehicle, unaware that the driver was wanted for armed robbery. The man had panicked, fired through his window, and James had died on the side of I-85 before the ambulance arrived. No children between them. They'd been trying, going through the early stages of fertility treatments, hopeful about their future. And then James was gone, and with him went every plan they'd made. Simone had returned to work after 3 weeks. Everyone said it was too soon, that she needed more time. But the truth was, work was the only thing that made sense anymore. In court, there were rules, evidence, procedures, clear rights and wrongs. Unlike her personal life, where nothing made sense and grief came in waves that left her gasping. She'd thrown herself into her cases with renewed intensity. She had a reputation now for being harsh, inflexible. Defense attorneys complained that Judge Matthews had lost her compassion along with her husband. They weren't entirely wrong. A knock on her door pulled her from her thoughts. Her clerk, a young woman named Rachel, poked her head in. "Judge Matthews, they're ready for you in courtroom 4, the Davis arraignment." Simone nodded, gathering her files. She stood, adjusting her robe, checking her reflection in the small mirror on her wall. Her makeup was perfect, hiding the shadows under her brown eyes. Her expression was composed, revealing nothing of the chaos inside. She looked like a judge, strong, authoritative, someone who had her life together. It was the best performance she gave every day. The courthouse was busy as always, a constant flow of lawyers, defendants, families, and law enforcement. Simone moved through it with practiced efficiency, nodding to colleagues, ignoring the sympathetic look some still gave her. She didn't want sympathy. She wanted... Actually, she didn't know what she wanted anymore. To turn back time, to have one more morning with James, one more lazy Sunday in bed, one more chance to say, "I love you." But time didn't work that way, so she kept moving forward because that was the only direction available. Courtroom 4 was nearly full when she entered. She took her seat behind the bench, surveying the room with the practiced eye of someone used to reading people. Prosecutors at one table, looking confident, a public defender at the other, looking tired. Various defendants waiting for their cases to be called. "All rise," the bailiff announced, the Honorable Judge Simone Matthews presiding. And so her day began. Arraignments mostly, a parade of humanity at its worst and most desperate. Drug charges, assault, theft. She processed them efficiently, setting bail, scheduling hearings, making decisions that affected lives with a stroke of her gavel. She was good at this. Even in her grief, maybe especially in her grief, she was good at being impartial, at seeing through excuses and lies, at holding people accountable. By lunch, she'd made it through 18 cases. She took a break in her chambers, eating a salad she'd brought from home, scrolling through her phone without really paying attention. A text from her mother. "Thinking of you today, baby. Call me when you can." Her mother worried. Everyone worried. They thought Simone was fragile, that she might break. They didn't understand that she'd already broken 18 months ago. What they were seeing now was just the pieces, carefully arranged to look whole. Another text, this one from a number she hadn't heard from in years. "Hey, Simone, saw you on the news. You look good. We should catch up." David, her ex-husband from what felt like another lifetime. They'd divorced 7 years ago after a turbulent 3-year marriage that had nearly destroyed her. David had been controlling, jealous, emotionally abusive in ways that left no visible scars. Getting away from him had been the hardest and best thing she'd ever done. She'd met James a year later, sweet, solid, safe James, who treated her like she was precious instead of property, who supported her career instead of resenting it, who was supposed to grow old with her. Simone deleted David's text without responding. She didn't need that poison in her life. Not now, not ever again. At 2 p.m., she was back on the bench for the afternoon docket when her bailiff, Officer Marcus Johnson, no relation to her case today, just an unfortunate coincidence of common names, approached with a concerned expression. "Judge Matthews, there's been a development. APD just issued a bolo for a suspect in the Henderson kidnapping case. They believe he's in the courthouse area." Simone's attention sharpened. The Henderson case had been all over the news. A 6-year-old girl snatched from a grocery store parking lot 3 days ago. Every law enforcement agency in the metro area was looking for her. Description: black male, mid-30s, approximately 6 feet tall, short hair, athletic build, last seen wearing a blue security uniform. They think he might be posing as courthouse security. Simone felt something cold settle in her stomach. A man who preyed on children. In her courthouse. "Increase security on all exits," she ordered, "and get me updated information as soon as it comes in." Officer Johnson nodded and moved to make the calls. Simone looked out at her courtroom, at the people waiting for justice, unaware that somewhere nearby a predator might be hunting. She thought of the missing girl. 6 years old, someone's daughter, someone's whole world. She thought of James, who had died trying to keep people safe, and she felt something harden in her chest, a determination that bordered on rage. Not on my watch, she thought. Not in my courthouse. Marcus was 3 blocks from the courthouse when his phone rang. His handler. "Bennett, change of plans," Torres said without preamble. "We need you to meet one of our informants downtown. He's spooked, won't talk to anyone but you. I'm supposed to be at the office in 15 minutes. This is more important. The informant says he has information about the trafficking ring's next shipment. We're talking dozens of victims, Marcus. Maybe kids." Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Kids. The entire reason he'd taken this case in the first place. The reason he kept going despite the toll it took. "Where?" "Parking garage on Pryor Street, level 3. He'll be in a silver Honda. You've got 30 minutes. The call ended. Marcus checked his mirrors, changed lanes, headed for downtown. His mind was already running through protocols, tactical considerations, exit strategies. He was so focused on the mission that he didn't notice the APD patrol car that had fallen in behind him. Didn't notice when it was joined by a second car. Didn't realize anything was wrong until the lights flashed and a voice crackled over a loudspeaker. "Driver of the silver Honda Civic, pull over immediately." Marcus's heart rate spiked. His Honda Civic wasn't silver, but it was close enough in certain light. And he was wearing a blue security uniform. Oh, hell. They thought he was the suspect, the kidnapper. His training kicked in immediately. Don't run, don't make sudden movements. Comply fully. This was a misunderstanding, easily cleared up once he showed his FBI credentials. He pulled over on a side street near the courthouse, hands visible on the steering wheel. In his rearview mirror, he saw 3 patrol cars now, officers emerging with hands on their weapons. "Driver, turn off the vehicle and place your hands out the window." Marcus did exactly as instructed, moving slowly, deliberately. His FBI badge and credentials were in his wallet in his back pocket. He just needed to get to them, to explain. But when he reached for his wallet, one of the officers shouted, "Hands where we can see them. Don't reach for anything." Marcus froze. "I'm Federal Agent Marcus Bennett with the FBI. My credentials are in my back pocket. I need to reach for them." "Out of the vehicle, now!" This was escalating too fast. Marcus's mind raced through his options. If he identified himself as FBI but they thought he was lying, using his cover story as a kidnapper, if his credentials looked fake to jumpy officers who thought they'd just caught a child predator. He'd been trained for situations like this. Stay calm, follow orders, don't give them a reason to shoot. But God, all he could think about was Zara. Who would pick her up from school if something went wrong? Who would explain to her why Daddy didn't come home? He opened the door slowly, hands still raised. "I'm coming out. I'm unarmed. My identification is in my back pocket." The officers surrounded him, weapons drawn. He could see the fear in their eyes, the adrenaline. They genuinely believed they'd caught a monster. "On the ground, face down, hands behind your head." Marcus complied, his cheek pressed against the cold pavement. He felt hands patting him down, roughly, urgently. His wallet was pulled from his pocket. "He's got a badge," one officer said. "Says FBI. Could be fake. Call it in." Marcus lay there, breathing slowly, forcing himself to stay calm. This would be cleared up. His handler would verify his identity. His credentials were real. This was just a terrible misunderstanding. But then he heard a new voice. Female. Authoritative. "What's going on here?" He turned his head slightly and saw polished heels, a woman's legs in a gray suit, and when he looked up further, past the officers, he saw her. Judge Simone Matthews, standing on the courthouse steps like an avenging angel, her dark eyes blazing with cold fury. "Ma'am, this is police business," one of the officers started. "This is happening outside my courthouse," Simone cut him off. "That makes it my business. Who is this man?" "We believe he matches the description of the Henderson kidnapping suspect. He was driving a vehicle similar to the Bolo, wearing a security uniform." Simone's gaze locked onto Marcus, and he saw something in her expression that chilled him. Not uncertainty. Not concern for his rights. Conviction. She'd already decided he was guilty. "Get him inside," she ordered. "I'll arraign him myself." "Ma'am, we haven't even confirmed." "Now, officer." Marcus felt hands hauling him up, cuffing his wrists behind his back. He tried to speak, to explain, but the look in Judge Matthews' eyes silenced him. She thought she'd caught a predator, a man who hurt children. And something about the cold certainty in her gaze told him that trying to convince her otherwise was going to be the fight of his life. As they dragged him up the courthouse steps, Marcus caught sight of his wallet, dropped on the pavement. His FBI credentials spilling out, ignored. His badge glinting in the afternoon sun. And no one noticed. No one except the judge who had already condemned him in her heart. The holding cell was cold. Marcus sat on the metal bench, his hands finally uncuffed, his mind racing through contingency protocols. He'd been printed, photographed, processed like a common criminal. His one phone call had gone to his handler's emergency line, straight to voicemail. Outside, he could hear the chaos. Officers scrambling to verify his credentials. Someone shouting about FBI protocols. The system grinding slowly while a 6-year-old girl was still missing, and the real kidnapper was still out there. And somewhere in this building, Zara's father was being treated like a monster. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd spent 3 years hunting predators, and now he was being mistaken for one. The door opened. Judge Matthews entered, alone, her robe gone. Just the gray suit now. She carried a folder and his wallet. Her expression was carefully controlled, but Marcus could see the exhaustion beneath it, the grief that lived in her eyes. He'd seen that look before, in his own mirror. "Mr. Bennett," she said, her voice cold and professional. "Or is it Agent Bennett? Your credentials seem legitimate, but we're still verifying with the FBI field office." "They'll confirm everything," Marcus said quietly. "I'm deep undercover investigating a human trafficking ring. The security guard job is my cover. That's why I haven't been in the system as active FBI." Simone set the folder on the table between them, but didn't sit. "You match the description of a child kidnapper. You were driving the right vehicle, wearing the right uniform, in the right area. I know how it looks. Do you?" Her voice cracked slightly, revealing emotion beneath the professional mask. "Do you know what it looks like when a 6-year-old girl goes missing? When her parents are on television begging for her return? When every hour that passes makes it less likely she'll be found alive?" Marcus met her eyes steadily. "I have a 7-year-old daughter. Her name is Zara. She's at Parkside Elementary right now, expecting me to pick her up at 3:15. So yes, Judge Matthews, I know exactly what it looks like. I know what those parents are feeling, and I know that every minute you keep me here is a minute the real kidnapper stays free." Something flickered in Simone's expression. Doubt, maybe. Or recognition. "Your daughter," she said slowly. "You're a single father?" "My wife died 18 months ago. Brain aneurysm. It's just me and Zara now." Simone's hand moved unconsciously to her left ring finger, where a wedding band still sat despite 18 months of widowhood. Marcus saw the gesture, understood it immediately. "Your husband," he said gently. "Detective James Matthews. I remember when he was killed. I'm sorry for your loss." Her eyes widened slightly. "How do you—" "I'm FBI, Your Honor. I know the name of every officer killed in the line of duty in this district." He paused. "And I'm genuinely sorry. Losing a spouse, it changes everything, doesn't it?" Simone sank into the chair across from him, some of the rigidity leaving her posture. For a moment, she wasn't a judge, she was just a woman who understood grief. "They told me I came back to work too soon," she said quietly, "that I needed more time. But work was the only thing that made sense, the only place where I felt like I had control." "I understand that," Marcus replied. "After Nicole died, my daughter stopped talking for 6 months. I thought I was going to lose her too, lose myself in the grief. But I had to keep going. For her. Because she needed me to be strong even when I felt like I was falling apart." Simone looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. Not as a suspect, but as a person, someone who carried the same wounds she did. "If you're really FBI," she said, "and this is a misunderstanding, then I've just—" She stopped, closing her eyes. "I've just done exactly what I swore I'd never do. I let my emotions override my judgment." "You were trying to protect a child," Marcus said. "That's not wrong. The instinct was right. The target was just wrong." Before Simone could respond, the door burst open. Officer Johnson entered, slightly out of breath. "Judge Matthews, FBI just confirmed. He's legitimate. Special Agent Marcus Bennett, 8 years with the Bureau, currently on extended undercover assignment. They're sending his handler now, and they're not happy we arrested him." Simone's face went pale. She stood slowly, looking at Marcus with something like horror. "Agent Bennett, It's okay," Marcus interrupted, though his heart was pounding. "Just get me out of here. I need to pick up my daughter, and I need to get back to finding the real suspect." "The girl," Simone said urgently. "The Henderson girl. Do you have any leads?" Marcus hesitated. This information was classified, but looking at this judge, this grieving widow who'd been trying so hard to protect a child, he made a decision. "We have surveillance footage from the grocery store. The real suspect is a white male, late 40s, posing as store security. He's part of the trafficking ring I've been investigating. We think he's planning to move her out of state tonight." Simone's jaw tightened. "Tell me how I can help." 2 hours later, Marcus was free. His handler had arrived, furious and apologetic in equal measure. Torres had reamed out the Atlanta PD, the courthouse security, anyone within earshot. But she'd also recognized that Marcus's cover was now completely blown. "You're done undercover," Torres had said bluntly. "Your face is in the system now. Every criminal in Atlanta knows you're FBI. We'll have to bring in someone else to finish the operation." 3 years of work. 3 years of lies and danger and missing his daughter's bedtime stories. And it was over in an afternoon because of mistaken identity. Marcus should have been angry. Instead, he just felt tired. He picked up Zara from school an hour late, his daughter running to him with worry etched on her small face. "Daddy, Miss Cooper said you were late. You're never late." "I'm sorry, baby girl. Daddy had some trouble at work." "What kind of trouble?" "How did you explain this to a 7-year-old? Grown-up stuff, but everything's okay now." They got ice cream like he'd promised. Zara chattered about her day while Marcus tried to focus, tried to be present. But his mind kept drifting to the Henderson girl, to the trafficking ring, to 3 years of work unraveling. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Agent Bennett?" Judge Matthews' voice. "I hope I'm not overstepping, but I wanted to check on you. And to apologize again." "You don't need to." "Yes, I do. I judged you without evidence. I let my grief and my anger override everything I'm supposed to stand for. That's not justice. That's just pain looking for a target." Marcus was quiet for a moment, watching Zara lick her ice cream cone, blissfully unaware of how close she'd come to losing her father today. "Judge Matthews, can I ask you something?" "Simone. Please call me Simone." "Simone? Why did you really come down to that arrest? It wasn't standard procedure." She was silent for a long moment. "Because I heard it was a child predator, and I thought if I could be there, if I could make sure justice was served quickly and completely, maybe it would mean something. Maybe it would balance out the fact that I couldn't save James, that I can't have the children we planned for, that I feel powerless every single day." Marcus understood that feeling more than she knew. Powerlessness is the worst part of grief. You want to fix something, save someone, make a difference, but you can't bring them back, so you try to save everyone else instead. "Yes," she breathed, "exactly that. Simone, the Henderson girl. We're running out of time to find her. I know, I've been making calls all afternoon, reaching out to every contact I have in law enforcement. If there's anything I can do—" "Actually," Marcus said slowly, an idea forming, "there might be. The trafficking ring has been using a network of corrupt officials to move victims. Judges who expedite paperwork, clerks who lose files. If you could access the court records, look for patterns. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one." "Send me what you need," Simone said immediately. "I'll start tonight." At 2 a.m., Marcus's phone rang. He was already awake, unable to sleep, reviewing case files in his small kitchen while Zara slept peacefully in her room. "I found something." Simone's voice was urgent, wide awake. "A pattern of expedited custody transfers over the past 2 years, all signed by Judge Richard Carver. The children involved all match the ages and profiles of known trafficking victims." Marcus sat up straighter. "Carver. We've had suspicions about him, but no proof." "I have proof. I have the files. And, Agent Bennett, Marcus, there's a custody hearing scheduled for tomorrow morning. A 6-year-old girl being transferred to a relative we have no record of. It has to be her. It has to be the Henderson girl." Marcus was already reaching for his shoes. "What time?" 9 a.m., courtroom 7. "I'll call my team. We'll be there." "Marcus," Simone's voice softened. "Thank you. For understanding. For not hating me for what I did today." "Simone, you were trying to protect a child. I could never hate someone for that." The next morning, FBI agents flooded Courthouse 7. Marcus stood in the back, no longer undercover, wearing his FBI jacket with pride. Torres was beside him, coordinating with Atlanta PD. Judge Carver entered, not noticing the additional security. A man Marcus recognized from surveillance footage, the real kidnapper, entered with a scared little girl whose photo had been all over the news. Emma Henderson. Alive. Simone was there too, in the gallery, watching as justice finally moved correctly. The moment Carver began the hearing, Torres gave the signal. Agents moved in, fast and coordinated. The kidnapper tried to run and was tackled before he reached the door. Carver stood, sputtering protests before he too was cuffed. Emma burst into tears, not understanding what was happening. Marcus moved forward instinctively, kneeling at the girl's level, his voice gentle. "Hey there, sweetheart. My name is Marcus. I'm with the FBI. We're here to take you home to your mommy and daddy. You're safe now." Emma looked at him with wide, terrified eyes. Then she threw her small arms around his neck, sobbing into his shoulder. Marcus held her, this child he'd never met, thinking of Zara, thinking of every parent's worst nightmare ending in this moment. He felt tears on his own cheeks and didn't bother to hide them. Behind him, Simone watched with her hand over her mouth, her own tears falling freely. The news coverage was everywhere. FBI breaks trafficking ring, judge arrested, missing girl found alive. Marcus became an instant hero, though he deflected credit to his team. His cover was completely blown now, but Torres had already reassigned him to a new position, training new undercover agents. Regular hours, home every night with Zara. It felt like a gift. A week later, there was a knock on his apartment door. Marcus opened it to find Simone standing there, wearing jeans and a sweater, looking more relaxed than he'd ever seen her. "I hope this isn't inappropriate," she said quickly, "but I wanted to thank you in person, and to apologize one more time. And I brought cookies?" She held up a container sheepishly. "I stress bake." Marcus laughed, a real laugh that felt good. "Cookies are definitely appropriate. Come in." Zara appeared immediately, curious about the visitor. "Daddy, who's this?" "This is Judge Matthews. She's a friend." "Call me Simone," Simone said, kneeling to Zara's level. "And you must be Zara. Your dad talks about you all the time." "He does?" Zara looked at Marcus with delight. "Constantly," Simone confirmed. "He says you're the smartest, bravest girl he knows." Zara beamed. Then, with the directness of children, "Are you my daddy's girlfriend?" "Zara!" Marcus felt heat rush to his face, but Simone just smiled. "Not yet, but I'd like to be his friend. Is that okay with you?" Zara considered this seriously. "Do you like ice cream?" "I love ice cream." "Okay then, you can stay." The Peachtree Cafe was busy on Sunday morning, families filling tables, the warm smell of breakfast and coffee filling the air. Marcus sat across from Simone, watching Zara and Simone's newly adopted daughter, Maya, an 8-year-old girl rescued from the trafficking ring, coloring together at a nearby table. "I still can't believe you adopted her," Marcus said softly. Simone smiled, watching the girls. "After everything with the case, after meeting all those children who needed homes, I couldn't just go back to my empty house. James and I always wanted children. This wasn't how we planned it, but Maya needed a mother, and I needed—" She trailed off. "A purpose," Marcus finished. "A reason to heal." "Yes." She looked at him, her eyes warm. "You gave me that. Not just Maya, but hope. The belief that broken things could be whole again." Marcus reached across the table, taking her hand. "We're all a little broken, but maybe broken things fit together better sometimes. Maybe the cracks let the light in." "Is that your way of saying you love me, Agent Bennett?" He smiled. "I'm working up to it, Your Honor." "Well, work faster, because I've been in love with you since you held that little girl in the courtroom and cried because you were so grateful she was safe." Marcus felt his throat tighten with emotion. "Simone Matthews, I love you. I love your strength and your compassion, and the way you fight for what's right even when it costs you. I love that you stress bake and that you read bedtime stories to Maya in different voices. I love—" "Daddy," Zara called out. "Miss Simone, look what we drew." They walked over to see a picture of 4 stick figures holding hands. 2 adults, 2 children, a family. "It's us," Maya explained proudly. "Our family." Marcus looked at Simone, saw the tears in her eyes that matched his own. "Yeah," he said softly. "Our family." Judge Simone Matthews Bennett stood in her childhood backyard, now transformed into an intimate wedding venue. White flowers everywhere, string lights hanging from the trees, 75 of their closest friends and family gathered. Marcus looked impossibly handsome in his suit, standing at the altar they'd built together, literally built, with their own hands, teaching the girls about love being something you construct carefully, with intention and effort. The ceremony was short. They'd both been married before, lost spouses they'd loved deeply. This wasn't about a big production. It was about choosing each other, about building something new from the pieces of their broken hearts. "I promise to honor James's memory," Marcus said, his voice steady, "by loving you the way he would have wanted you to be loved. Completely, honestly, with everything I have." Simone's tears fell freely. "I promise to honor Nicole's memory by being the kind of stepmother she would have trusted with Zara, and by loving you with the same fierce devotion she gave you." They exchanged rings, simple gold bands engraved with the same words, broken together, whole forever. Zara and Maya stood beside them as junior bridesmaids, holding hands, these two girls who'd formed their own unbreakable bond. When the minister pronounced them married, the girls cheered loudest of all. At the reception, Marcus pulled Simone onto the dance floor. Over her shoulder, he could see their daughters laughing, his FBI colleagues mixing with her court staff. Two worlds that had collided in chaos now merged in joy. "Thank you," Simone whispered against his chest. "For what?" "For seeing me. Not the judge, not the widow, not the broken woman who arrested you by mistake. Just me." Marcus pulled back to look at her face. "Simone, you were never broken. You were healing. There's a difference." "We both were." "Yeah, we both were." They swayed together as the sun set over Atlanta, painting the sky in golds and pinks. Two people who'd lost everything. Two children who'd needed family. 4 broken pieces that had somehow formed something whole. That night, after the guests had left and the girls were asleep, Marcus and Simone stood on their new home's back porch. They'd bought a house together in a good school district, space enough for everyone, for all the memories they'd carry forward and all the new ones they'd make. "Do you ever think about that day?" Simone asked. "When I had you arrested?" Marcus laughed. "Only every time someone asks how we met." "I'm serious." "So am I." He wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Simone, that day was terrible and wonderful all at once. Terrible because I was terrified. Wonderful because it brought you into my life. Sometimes the worst days lead to the best things." She turned in his arms. "I love you, Marcus Bennett." "I love you too, Simone Bennett." From inside, they heard giggling. Then Zara's voice. "Maya, they're kissing again." "Gross," Maya responded, but both girls were laughing. Marcus and Simone smiled at each other, at the beautiful chaos that was their life now. "Come on," Simone said, taking his hand. "Let's go tuck in our daughters." Our daughters. 4 simple words that meant everything. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story about how a terrible mistake became a beautiful beginning, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Remember, sometimes the person who challenges us most becomes the person who completes us. Justice isn't just about punishment. It's about redemption, second chances, and the courage to admit when we're wrong. See you in the next story.